Hey guys, it's Jamiyah, and welcome back to the In Holy Fashion podcast, where we learn how to live our lives in a holy fashion as godly girlies. And today we're going to be talking about building our lives on, not building our lives, but building things on false foundations. And I have a personal story to talk about with that, and it's about my old channel. I used to have a channel called Macchiato. Well, now it's my personal channel that I used to watch videos. And it was, in its final form, a fashion channel where I would talk about affordable alternatives to more expensive, like, handbags and jewelry and etc. I used to work in a jewelry store. Well, that was my last job. I got laid off in January. So that was like kind of the gist. It started out years ago when I felt like the Lord was guiding me to make a YouTube channel and he wanted me to talk about him on it. I feel like it was like a few months after I got saved, like I was 19. I'm 26 now. And I did start it, but I didn't start it right. And so I did it a few different times. And then I finally started to like share the word of God on there. But my teaching, the way I was doing it, I was watching other people do it and just like copying the way that they would teach, and that wasn't really the right way for me. So once I found my way, I started doing it that way, and then eventually, like, I realized that I was going through a whole fashion journey of modesty, and I've always been really into fashion, so it kind of helped a lot. And then I wanted to talk about these things, and then God let me, and it became a fashion channel in the end. And every time I wanted to talk about more spiritual things or stuff like that, it just was kind of like no more than 100 views. So yeah, and I was doing really well. I had 202 subscribers by the end of it, and I was starting to kick up momentum. It was a channel I had for so long, and I had finally became consistent. I had finally cracked my branding. I had finally cracked everything. Like, I had finally mixed it all together the right way. And God was like, no. So we're going to be talking about that. And if I seem a little annoyed, I'm trying not to be. I recorded this yesterday and my camera just did what cameras do and the footage didn't work. So I'm trying to like refilm this, but I'm also trying to abbreviate more than I did the last time. So forgive me for that. So I'm going to break this down into 3 different things. So the first part is the cause/revelation. The second part is making the decision. And the third part is what I realized in the aftermath and the solution. So the first part, one of the biggest red flags was that I kept having a difficulty pinpointing direction for the channel. I think there were a hodgepodge of things that I was trying to like put all together, and it just didn't make sense. Like, I was trying to put like marketing analysis of retail businesses, because I love retail strategy and business strategy and stuff on there. And then I was trying to do, kind of like alternative videos for like what bags to get and stuff that are great alternatives to X, Y, and Z. And then I was trying to talk about God on there, and I was trying to like, it was just like too much. Like, I felt like it was too much. I didn't really have a clearer like understanding of what the goal of the channel really was, and I kind of lost that, and it became more of like a fashion channel than a channel for God. And don't get me wrong, like, for the fashion videos, I would put like a scripture in the beginning or whatever, but most people were skipping that and they were going to the fashion part. And it was because I didn't realize the foundation of what the people really wanted and what I had started to build my channel on was fashion. And not fashion through the lens of like modesty or through the lens of a Christian, but like just like they could get the same sort of content they were getting from me from anyone else. And like there was no perspective change or anything. That was all they really came for. So I didn't realize that when you're creating videos, you know, when you're looking at data and feedback, you start creating more of what is getting good feedback. And so that's how the channel became more of a fashion channel. And then I feel like I kind of lost my original audience when it came to like talking about God and everything. And I started to feel empty. So what happened was I got laid off in January. Our store closed as I worked in a jewelry store. And I had more time to make videos, right? I had just gotten this laptop December. And I had just gotten this mic December, and God had called me to do a podcast. I thought he meant a podcast on the old channel, and yes, I threw that on that channel as well. That channel was like, mystery casserole or something. I don't know. It was too much. And I didn't like, now, of course, that podcast is now this. We'll get to how that happened later. But yeah, I was doing all of that. And then once the whole thing with the job happened, like, I feel like God was like giving me like, yeah, like work on the channel. So I started planning all these videos, and I started pumping out stuff, right? And at some point though, I just started to feel emptiness as I was doing it, as I was like editing it and stuff. I started to feel like a real emptiness inside of me, like a serious lack of fulfillment. And it was scary. So I prayed about it. I feel like God was telling me to like, you know, take a break. So I took a break, and then I'd come back and things felt better for a little bit. And then that same feeling came up, and then I was praying and toiling over it. And God was like, even though I was rejecting this as God's voice because I didn't want to hear that, he was like, why don't you just stop making these videos and just like why don't you just like preach the gospel, like spread the word? And I was like, God, what? Like, I'm already kind of doing that and X, Y, Z, you know what I mean? And I just kept avoiding it and avoiding it and avoiding it. Every time I'd pray about the situation, I would get an answer to that effect. And I would just keep pushing it and pushing away and pushing away. And then I finally was like, you know what? What if that's really God? And yeah, I had to make that decision. There was a sermon that we had at my church that it was about idols. And I realized that my channel had become an idol, but like also what I had built, like I had made fashion an idol to an extent. So like making that channel, even though it was fun at times, it was also kind of stressful because I felt like I was, again, chasing what's popular, chasing all the new releases, trying to constantly find alternatives to stuff, like, you know, just constantly running on this treadmill of like, I gotta pump out content, I gotta pump out content, I gotta pump it out, I gotta pump it out, I gotta pump it out. And even if it was stuff that I wasn't super like excited about or cared about as much, I still would put it out anyway, because I felt like it was my duty to give that information, if that makes sense. And so I was doing more research about what fashion alternatives were important than finding out what I could be spreading the word about with God. Like, you know, like it was clear that became more of the focus. And I'm not saying that God cannot lead you to make something or do something where it kind of doesn't have him in it, in a sense, like it looks like it doesn't have him in it. I'm not saying a Christian can't have a fashion page. I was chasing kind of the reporter style, and it was just, I felt like I was like sharing, I felt like I was like pushing people to consumerism and just like all that sort of stuff. It just was bad. And he made me realize that it was an idol for me. So I laid it down and I grieved that channel for a week. I cried almost every day. until maybe till the middle part of the week. And I was like, all right, God, how do you want me to move forward now? Like, I put all the videos in private. And I was like, you want me to reuse this channel or you want me to make a new one? And he told me to make a new one. So I made a new one, and that's what this one is. So that's how we got here. I want to share Matthew 7, verses 24 to 27. It's about building on false foundations, because the word says that we should build our house on the rock, right? Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock, and the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand, and the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Amen. So in my study Bible, it's a women's study Bible, it's ESV. It said in the notes that in the summer, the sand in that area in Israel would be hard, so it would seem like you could build on it, but then once the summer was over, it would get soft, and then the house wouldn't have a stable foundation, right? So a good builder would know to dig past that sand down to the bedrock to make sure that the house would have a proper foundation. And I realized, wow, there are things that we build things on false foundations that only last a season. It seemed firm to you. It seemed firm to build your house on pursuing money. It seemed firm to build your house on becoming popular. It seemed firm to build your house on all these things. But really, it's only going to stand for a season, and then it's going to collapse. And like it said, once storms come and tribulations and all those things come, the fall will be great, right? That building, the fall will be great. So definitely that was very convicting for me. When I started to make the decision, was just I kind of realized I was starting to build my house on something other than God. And especially because my intent, like I said, you could have a channel that's just an engineering channel. You don't mention God at all if that's what God told you to do. And that's a key point there. If he told you to do that. And your intentions are pure because I'm doing something to the glory of God, and that's what he wanted me to do, and that's where he wanted me. But that's not what I was doing. I felt like I could feel God pulling me to do something else, but I didn't want to. I wanted to keep going the way that I was going because it was successful. So I threw Jesus sprinkles on it, right? And God is only gonna let you God is only going to let you serve two masters for only so long, right? That's kind of what it is. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to have success. And I started to want that more than God. And that's kind of what I was doing, right? So that leads us into making the decision. So yeah, like I said, I had tons of videos planned out. And I think it was just my channel was finally reaching a point where I could see if I kept going the way I was going, I could have 1,000 or more subscribers by the end of the year. That's how many subscribers I was growing per video at that point. I had gained especially also my shorts, I had cracked the code with my shorts. And I was oh my goodness, I could really have a proper size of subscribers by the end of this year if I keep going this route. So that made me excited, and I started planning more videos and everything. So when he hit me with this, it was I hit a brick wall, and I was whoa. And it was it was undeniable. I couldn't act like I didn't see it. So in that moment, I had to make a decision between, do I go and be obedient to the Lord and listen to what he told me to do? Or do I keep walking in a compromised state and have the success I've always wanted, you know, and God's no longer helping me. I'm just doing whatever I want to do, right? So I had to make that decision, and it was kind of hard. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I'm a super Christian, okay? Ever since I had left graduated college, it's been very rough trying to get a job, trying to keep a job, trying to do all those things. I live with my parents. Like, you know, validation was something I was definitely seeking through this channel. And so when the channel performed well, I felt validated, like finally something in my life is working out. And it's hard to let go of that validation when God is telling you to let it go, right? But I also knew what it was like to try and force something without God's will behind it, without his power behind it, without his leading behind it. Like, it's hard. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be where God isn't, you know? And so I had to just let it go, you know? And that's why I cried for almost a whole week afterwards. And I want to clarify too, when I was mourning the channel, it wasn't really just because of the channel. It was because I felt bad that I hadn't seen. I don't think that's what I'm trying to say. I felt bad that I didn't see, there we go, the compromise that I was starting to make. Like, I felt bad that I didn't see it sooner. And so I felt like I dishonored God, and I felt horrible about that. But God showed me, like, it's okay. Like, it was a trial, right? In the end, you made the right decision. Don't beat yourself up over the fact that you started to idolize something and start building your thing on an idol. Like, we're humans. That's what we do. Like, you're not always going to be straight and narrow, unfortunately. That's just the way we are. And so God really encouraged me with that, and I want to encourage you with that. If you've built your life on a false foundation, like on anything false, even your entire life, on not God, right? On not the Christ, the rock, right? You still have that chance to turn around and change and make that decision. And so, yeah, so I put all the videos in private, made the new channel when he was giving me direction on what it was supposed to look like, which is this channel. And yeah, this was a key example of obedience over sacrifice. So, 1 Samuel 15, verses 22 to 23. It says, "And Samuel said, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, and presumption is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king." So this was about Saul. He was supposed to one of the kings of the people that he was fighting, and he didn't. He took the treasures of that king's thing, but he let the guy go, right? Which was, he basically half obeyed. Half obedience is still disobedience, right? And so realizing that, like, I was going to be willing to just, like, even though God had showed me that was not the way he wanted me to do things, I was willing to still do what I want to do and just throw a scripture on my videos, talk about God sometimes here and there. And like, even though it was ineffective, like I said, my videos that were just about God, 60 views at best. My videos about the jewelry and stuff, I had 600 views, 700 views, a few thousand, right? And so it was very clear that I was enticed by the metrics, right? And God wants our obedience and our sacrifice. Not, oh, well, if you let me do what I want to do and I'll talk about you sometimes, just let me do that. Like, that's sacrifice. But obedience is, he wanted me to leave that channel. I ended up having to delete all those videos, and we'll talk about that in a second. And I had to start completely fresh the way he wanted me to, because this microphone is his. This camera is his. This laptop is his. Everything I have is his. I'm his. What do I look like telling God, oh no, you have no right? You know what I mean? Like, to tell me, what to do, So yeah, obedience is better than sacrifice. If your parents told you, if you had parents that told you, when I come home from work, I want this kitchen cleaned, but instead of cleaning the kitchen, you sweep the floor and you take the trash out, but you don't wipe the counters and clean the dirty dishes and take the chicken out to unthaw and mop the floor. Like, that is what full obedience looks like. You're doing half obedience. So when your parents get home, they're going to be upset. But yeah, that's what we do to God when we are like, "Oh, I still want to do it my way, but I'll honor you in this way," He still was trying to give him the usual sacrifices, the usual X, Y, and Z, but that was not what he wanted. He wanted obedience, because God knows it's harder to be obedient than to sacrifice. It really is. And like, hey, I am no angel. I struggle with it too, right? And so that was a big thing. And the other thing is, like, you never know what's on the other side of your obedience. Like, I was over here holding on to a little 200 subscriber channel. This channel may not look like it yet, but it might go way farther than that. And even if it doesn't, it will have a way better impact than my old channel had, right? Because I'd actually be impacting people. That was the key problem. I didn't feel like I was impacting people the way I could have been, right? I felt like I was doing something that was very surface level. So anyway, here we go. Last part. So what I realized in the aftermath and the solution. So recently I had to delete all my old videos, because what happened is, creating a new channel is very humbling. Okay. It's hard to get views. It's hard to get people to watch. It's hard to, especially like, because I'm making a pod channel. So of course, like, it's going to be harder because people don't want to watch for that long. So it's very humbling, right? And you got to start fresh. So, I started to get tempted to look at my old channel and look at my old metrics and look at the old videos, and, oh, I had hundreds of views on this and I had thousands of views on that, and oh, blah, blah, blah. And it makes you tempted to want to go back to what you were doing, right? And, not continue what you were told to do. And so God was like, hey, I think you need to delete these videos. I was like, no, God, because I wanted to keep it. They were like my trophies. I was still holding on to the validation, right, that I had gotten from those videos. I was like, no, God, He told me again. I was like, I don't know, God, especially because I was ovulating. And when I'm ovulating, sometimes my ability to hear from the Lord is a little harder. So I try to, like, if it's a big decision, I try to, like, hold on to it until after I'm finished ovulating, and then pray about it again and really, all that, because I get, like, more clarity. And no, he was very clear. He was like, look, if you don't delete these videos, I was like, okay. Like, it was like I could feel that, like, division in my spirit of, like, okay, like, I have to, like, let it go. So I went and I deleted it all on the same day, all the shorts, all the videos. I deleted them all. And honestly, I feel more free, and I feel like I'm not holding myself to a standard that doesn't really exist anymore because I deleted it. But it's a real signifier that this is a whole new era. This is a whole new thing. And even though it's still hard. Like my last video, it went out yesterday. So I'm filming this the day after the last video went up. And it did way better than both of my first videos combined. And this, you know, I really almost didn't want to post that video because I was just tired of of the videos just not performing the way I wanted them to. And even with this video, like, I'm like, should I keep going? Because it's like, I haven't gotten more than 10 views on each video. But I have to keep going because God called me to do it. And he reminded me that, like, I posted videos on my old channel starting out, even when I only got like 1 view or no views. I just kept posting and kept posting and kept posting. I didn't have nowhere near the amount of skill I have now. And so he was like, I want you to be faithful with this too, like that, you know? And yes, sometimes God tells you to do something else and it goes, whoa, like 10, 100,000 views. Whoa, that's crazy. And other times he's still going to want you to get it out the mud, right? He's still going to want you to get it out the mud because it's a test of your character. If you got only a few views, would you still do it? If you're just being obedient to what I told you to do, would you still do it? You know? Excuse me. That's what he wants to see. So yes, it's very humbling, but I'm getting through it. Excuse my voice. I'm like, oh, yeah. Hold on. So yeah, sorry. My battery went dead and I had to charge it, or I had to switch it out. Yeah, also, I realized in the end that it was an act of mercy that the Lord had called me out of that and told me to destroy that house, right? Because honestly, how many people build big houses, 4-level houses, you know, skyscrapers on false foundations, and then inevitably they only last for a season and they crumble, right? Because they weren't built on the rock, right? And then, like, yeah, I realized that for some people, after that happens, they blame God. They think God did this to them or X, Y, and Z, and really it was them. They built it on the wrong foundation, and they likely had the chance to get out of it, but they didn't take it because they loved what they were getting from that more than what they were getting from the Lord or what they could have gotten from the Lord. And so I'm so glad that God was like, tear it down while it's still a shack, okay? Tear it down while it's still in frame, okay? Before it gets even bigger, and then you'll get extremely disappointed. Your faith will be shaken, even to the point of leaving God. And it's just like, that is something that I'm so grateful for, that God gave that mercy to me, extended that mercy to me, because it really felt like a fork in the road. Like, you could keep going this route, you could keep having success, and you could keep X, Y, and Z. I just won't be there, right? Or you can go this way, and I will be there. And I'm not going to guarantee what's going to happen necessarily, but I will always be there, right? So, making that choice, if you're in between something like that, I would highly encourage you to follow the Lord. You have no idea. Another thing was, I felt like I felt very frustrated and sad, like, oh, did I waste my time with the old channel? And I felt bad about that, but the Lord revealed to me that he used it as a training ground. If it hadn't been for that channel, I wouldn't have learned how to do YouTube. I wouldn't have learned how to do thumbnails. I wouldn't have learned how to do titles and SEO and descriptions and all those sorts of things. I wouldn't have learned that. And I'm really good at that now, you know? And so he used it as a training ground for what he really wanted me to do. And I just want to do Genesis 50 verse 20. It says, Genesis 50 verse 20, it says, as for you, sorry, cut that out. Genesis 50 verse 20, it says, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So that's Joseph speaking to his brothers after his father passed, and they thought he was going to do something to them because they sold him into slavery. And he was like, no, like what you did, like God meant for good. Like he switched your evil for good. And I think the same thing happens, like whatever misdirection we take, whatever misstep, he uses it, he flips it for our good. It's like, I heard it, I think it was like Priscilla Shire on her podcast with her son. Like she was like, a GPS is kind of the same way. If you take the wrong turn or whatever, it recalibrates and you still get back to the place where you were supposed to be. It may take a little longer, it may look a little different, but that part of the journey will still teach you more things about what you're supposed to be doing and where you're going. And it's not wasted, right? They're not like, oh, you took a wrong turn, can't help you. Like, look at the cows, you're lost, Like, no, like God is like that. Like if you take a wrong turn, if you make a certain decision or whatever, he's going to recalibrate you, but he's also going to use what you learned from that for the thing that he does have you for, right? And sometimes it transforms the way he will use you in the future in a different way. Like now he'll be like, oh, now I want you to do what you did here, but do it like this. You know what I mean? So I just want to encourage you guys with that, because it can be very discouraging. Like for me as a Christian, I can get kind of obsessed with making the right decisions. And a lot of times you're not going to make the right decision. Okay? You're not going to make the right decision a lot of times, and that's okay. God knows that. He's not going to be mad at you because you made the wrong decision or wrong turn or whatever. And sometimes those turns, like I said, I was doing what God wanted me to do, but I started to idolize one aspect of it, and I started changing that stuff, right? And so sometimes we can be doing what God told us to do, but then we flip it into something else, right? And we turn it to a different way, and we start building on a different foundation. And so, like, because we are not infallible, we're humans, right? So don't feel bad if you did that. Yeah, also God can restore what you may have been trying to do without him, right? Like God revealed to me that it wasn't that fashion wasn't my talent. It wasn't that those things weren't my talents. It was that I was using them wrong. And he was right. And sometimes you'll go through this process and realize, okay, I should never touch this again. And other times you'll go through this process and God will show you how he wants you to use this thing, right? And I'm still praying through this and walking through this with the fashion thing. Like, God can restore and redeem, the talent that you misused, the thing that you misused, right? Excuse me. And I want you guys to be encouraged by that. That doesn't mean you can never, ever again, but it definitely is a case-by-case basis. I would start with like laying it at the Lord's feet and submitting it to him and letting him decide what to do, right? And letting him show you what to do with that, and be ready to let it go forever and be ready to be called into it, right? The last thing I want to mention is just like how these things do matter to the Lord. Like whether or not we built what we have on the rock matters to him in the end, right? So there's this thing called the Bema seat, which is mentioned in 1 Corinthians 3. And basically it is the seat after. So there's a great white judgment seat, right? Which is where everybody gets judged, the finality of all that. And then after that is the Bema seat, and it's for Christians, right? And so you have your salvation, but it is about, it's about like whether or not you built what you were doing on earth on the rock, right? And so here's the scripture. It's 1 Corinthians 3, verses 11 to 15. It says, "For no one can lay a foundation other than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ," right? So Christ is the rock. "Now, if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become manifest, for the day will disclose it. Because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. If the work that anyone has built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. If anyone's work is burnt up, he will suffer loss, though he himself be saved, but only as through fire." And even as I'm reading this, I'm kind of just realizing also that it's talking about what building materials you choose to use as well, which I think could mean allude to, like, did you build this with contempt? Did you build this with joy? Did you build this with intention? Did you build this with a strategy? Did you build this in a lazy way? You know what I mean? Like, did you do the works that God told you to do in a way that honors him, you know? So there's that. But also, as you can see, the first requirement is building on the foundation that is laid. It says, "For no one can lay a foundation other than that which is laid, which is Jesus Christ." So imagine not even talking about the intentions, but even imagining you building not even on the rock. Your thing is going to pass through the fire, and it's not even going to hold up, you know? So you could build with gold. You could build with all these fancy materials, but because you didn't build on the rock, it's not going to survive. Right? So literally, we have to realize that what we build on this earth and what we do, our careers, our relationships, our hobbies, our endeavors, our projects, our side projects, will be tested in heaven, you know, by the Lord. And our rewards in heaven will be based on that, you know? And so, like, that even more so is like a reason to let go of the things that were built on an idol, on a false foundation, because it's going to pass through the fire and it's not going to stand. And that also shows you how intentional you have to be with what you're building with, right? You could have a talent in something and build what you're supposed to build with it in a lazy way, not even doing it to the extent you could have done it, and it's going to pass through that fire. Okay? You know, and so, like, be intentional, right? So yeah, I just want to encourage you guys, like, God does care about whether, because some people are like, oh, okay, false, you know, foundation, whatever, like, there's no real consequences to that eternally. Hey, you gonna be saved, you gonna make it to the gates, but, you know, so-and-so is gonna have a 10,000 square foot mansion, and you're gonna have, I'm just saying, you know, we want to strive for greatness, right? So yeah, so that's all. I think I might have another, I do have another video, which is going to be Christian dating. We're going to start talking about Christian dating. Oh, this is about to be spicy. But yes, that's going to be the next episode, hopefully. And I hope that this video helps you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.